Breaking news tonight, the world on edge as Iran strikes back against the United States in the Middle East.
What you're about to hear isn't speculation. It's happening right now. While the world sleeps, Iran and the United States are exchanging fire directly, not through proxies, not through hidden operations, but missile for missile. And yet, this morning, Donald Trump announces a complete ceasefire. But something isn't adding up. Just hours before this so-called ceasefire, explosions were heard over Doha, Qatar, as 6 Iranian missiles were fired at the Al-Udeid Air Base, home to U.S. Central Command, a critical command center that exists in large part to protect Israel. Here's what the mainstream won't say. Iran warned the United States in advance. Yes, according to 3 senior Iranian officials, the strikes were coordinated with Qatar to prevent casualties. And guess what? No one died. Not one American, not one soldier. A show of force without a body count. This wasn't an act of recklessness. It was calculated de-escalation. Iran trying to save face at home while broadcasting restraint to the world. And that should terrify you, because even in a moment of calculated retaliation, the US media continued painting Iran as irrational and evil while giving Israel a blank check.
After 12 days of uncertainty in the Middle East, which has fueled fears of a widening conflict, tonight Donald Trump has posted that Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. It was just hours ago that Iran struck back. Just 48 hours after the United States launched a barrage of bunker-busting bombs at several Iranian nuclear facilities. This is what retaliation looks like. The largest US base in the region targeted with what appears to be 14 short and medium-range missiles. President Trump tonight called it very weak, but he even thanked Iran in a post online for giving the US early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Watch as they're intercepted by American and Qatari forces above Doha. According to US officials, some of those missiles were headed for Al-Udeid Air Base. The Pentagon says 13 of the 14 were intercepted with no damage or casualties. Al-Udeid is home to the headquarters of Central Command and Air Force Central Command, and it's likely where that US raid on Iranian nuclear facilities would have been coordinated. Trump was there just over a month ago. The president urged peace after greenlighting that stunning operation dubbed Midnight Hammer. New video shows about 9 B-2 bombers taking off from Missouri early Saturday morning. 2 were decoys, the other 7 flying quietly to Iran. A senior US defense official tells ABC News the administration believes Iran's attacks will be, quote, regional. Iran called today's attack the Annunciation of Victory. The Revolutionary Guard claims to have fired the same number of missiles that the US used in their weekend strike, their supreme leader vowing Iran will not surrender. The US has been making adjustments to protect the more than 40,000 US troops spread from Iraq, Bahrain, Qatar and Syria. In the hours before, a shelter-in-place order went out at the US Embassy in Qatar. And mitigation plans have been in the works for some time. These satellite images show more than 24 US military aircraft had left Al-Udeid Air Base. This photo was taken on June 10th and shows more than 30 military planes. 8 days later, a nearly empty base with only 3 planes still visible.
But let's step back. What started all this? Donald Trump's weekend decision to bomb Iranian nuclear facilities at Israel's urging. He called it preventive, but to Iran, it was war. They responded not with suicide bombers, not with mass bloodshed, but with precision, forewarning, and symbolism. This is war with rules, a chess match where both players know the other's next move. But if one side stops playing by the rules, everything collapses.
And by the way, to your point, Anna, I've now listened to a bunch of mainstream media reports today, and it's amazing, just straight reporters. Every fourth line is some sort of filler propaganda for Israel. So like they'll tell you a fact, and Noam Chomsky told me about this in one of my interviews. He's like, just listen for the facts. Everything else is just framing in an attempt to manipulate you. So they'll say like, oh, Iran fired some missiles, but they gave earlier warning, but it is so that nobody will get hurt. Basically, they don't say so nobody will get hurt. They'll say, oh, fired some missiles, but we did have some warning. But remember, they're a terrorist state that are very violent, and it's a good thing that Israel took out their capabilities that were threatening the entire region, etc. I'm like, wait, why is this in a straight news report? I don't understand. Why are you just putting in propaganda in the middle of your so-called news? Anyways, so now, guys, the next question is, how do we respond? So Iran is basically saying we want to de-escalate, even though you messed us up, and we don't know how bad those facilities are damaged yet. We'll get to that story in a little bit, but even now, we're saying, okay, very light response. So if our response back to that is, okay, good, let's get the hell out of here. I can't believe that didn't start a giant war. Thank God that they didn't do much of a response. Great, we said we destroy their nuclear facilities. We did, we're out. By the way, if Trump did that, then all of MAGA would be like, told you. It was just a bombing, it was no big deal, etc. But Israel's never satisfied.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, they're not gonna say, oh, it's okay. You helped us do our fake reason for going in.
Exactly.
No, we want regime change.
Exactly.
So I don't care that their response was light. Provoke a bigger response and provoke something larger and larger and larger until we do regime change.
100%.
Okay, now you have look, guys, the beauty of this is that we tell you what's gonna happen before it happens.
Exactly.
We told you that this wasn't about the nukes. They don't even have nukes. We told you that they would try regime change. And guess what? Trump over the weekend instantly changes the goalposts to regime change. So we're all gonna see with our own eyes. Are we gonna get out, or are we gonna go further in because we haven't finished the job for Israel yet?
Trump calls Iran's response weak. He brags that 14 missiles were knocked down and that the US responded with total dominance. But then, in a bizarre twist, he claims there will be peace. According to Trump, Israel and Iran have agreed to a 24-hour ceasefire after completing their in-progress missions. Iran is to stop first, then 12 hours later, Israel will stop. And after 24 hours, the war is over. A diplomatic miracle or a propaganda stunt. Here's the catch. Israel gets to keep bombing for 12 more hours, while Iran just takes it. No retaliation, just trust. And who are they trusting? The same coalition that bombed their lead negotiator days earlier. This isn't just bad diplomacy, it's theater. It's a regime change dressed up as de-escalation. Netanyahu has wanted Iranian regime change for decades. Now he may get it if this farce continues. We at Breaking Truth are not here to excuse the Iranian regime. The people of Iran deserve better, but they also deserve the right to choose their future without foreign tanks rolling in. They overthrew a dictator once. They can do it again if left alone. So what happens next? If Israel sees Iran's restraint as weakness, this ceasefire won't last. They will push for more strikes, more provocations, until we're all pulled in deeper. And then there's the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran blocks it, oil skyrockets. If they don't, they look weak. Either way, US destroyers and 40,000 troops are sitting ducks. Tonight, the world holds its breath. The war may be over in 24 hours, or it may just be getting started. And if we've learned anything, it's this. When politicians play with fire, it's the rest of us who burn. Stay awake, stay critical, stay with Breaking Truth.